Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Well, it's great to have you on. I thank you for coming on and taking some time with me. I would just kind of like to go through your career to start, maybe the early on years, and I find it fascinating that you went overseas as well. So we'll dive into that. A marketing intern, and then you got to be a grad student at University of Nottingham and in the UK. So just kind of go into that early on process of how you got overseas.
Yeah. So I attended Stetson University for my undergrad. I played college football there. Yeah, for my major required an internship program, and I ended up interning in the marketing department. And it was really my first exposure to the behind the scenes element of college athletics. And it's funny now, working in a somewhat behind the scenes type role at the University of Alabama. It's a little different than at Stetson, but I love the experience and just getting to work with some people who I knew from a student athlete relationship, but hadn't gotten the chance to, now I'm going to spend time in the office and work with them and be there on game days. And that was, that was really cool. I can't say I decided then and there that I was going to work in college athletics. That still really wasn't top of mind. I was unfortunately a bit of a stereotypical student athlete. Like all I cared about or was focused on was football and my playing career, knowing that it would eventually end. I didn't have, I mean, I had aspirations of playing at the next level, but no one with good sense would give me a look. I was a blocking tight end, special team guy. Like I knew my career was over when I finished college. And so was finishing up there, still didn't necessarily have a plan. And I was actually considering going to grad school for communication studies. So my major was communication. I had taken some rhetoric courses, fallen in love with it, and thought that that would be a really cool continuation of my studies and a really interesting career path from my perspective. And it was funny. So I took I'm trying to remember the name of what's the post grad test? Gosh, this is
I,
embarrassing. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so I took that test, right?
yeah,
Because
big
it's
time test.
yeah, big time test that you take for grad school. Man, this makes me sound like I wasn't that serious about it. I really was. I took the test, and I took it twice. Anyways, so I I took that middle of the season. I remember having to ask coach like, "Hey, I'm gonna miss a team meeting. I've got to like because the test was at like 7 a.m. in the morning or something like that." And anyways, so that was like mid-season. We're about 3 weeks out from the end of my college football career as I know it, and coach does his usual post-practice speech, announcements, whatever. But one of them was, "Hey, seniors, hang back after practice. I got something else I need to talk to you about." And we're all sitting here thinking it's going to be a conversation about senior day. And he starts up with, "So I got this postcard." It was like, he starts going on about how there's this school over in England that's looking for American football players. They just renovated their athletic facility. Apparently there's an opportunity to go get a master's degree over there. And they're really interested in talking with y'all. If that's of interest to anyone, let me know and I'll connect you guys. And of course, you're talking to 21, 22, 23-year olds who are all about to graduate college. And as soon as coach walks out, I think one of our DBs stands up and goes, "We're all going, right?"
Shoot, I'd go.
We're talking about it and be like, "Man, that would be awesome. Like, we love, how fun would that be? Also, like, how serious could it be?" And, um, we were just joking around, and it ended up being that we all kind of just let it go for a bit. But one of my teammates actually followed through on it and I connected with the guy and was like, "Hey, the conversation was actually pretty good. I don't know if it's for me or not, but you should definitely check it out if you're looking at grad school. Like, you're going to do that. You might as well look into this." I connected with it. His name's Phil Wood. He's still in the game. He's still recruiting for University of Nottingham. He's on LinkedIn. If anyone's trying, about to graduate and not sure what they want to do with their life,
Want to go
highly
overseas?
recommend this. Yeah. He's a great guy, and I'm sure he'd be happy to, as your student athlete. I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you. So, anyways, connected with Phil, talked to him. I'm like, that sounds great. I've got to weigh it against my options here, and I, I, I would every time I don't know if this is a standard practice or not, but it was like every program I talked to, they'd be like, "Hey, what other programs are you looking at?" And so talked about I was looking at this school, this school, this school. He, uh, and then I mentioned, well, and there's also this opportunity to go get a master's degree over in Nottingham and continue playing football. And every program director was like, I mean, I would go do that. You can come back and do this anytime you want, but like I would go to England if I could. And it was like every dinner party I went to, every like any, I'm early 20s at the time. Everyone's like, I would go to England. The experience would be crazy. And my college sales, I took one sales class in my I was a communication major. I think I took two business classes. One was a business communication course, and the other one was a sales class. And it was with James Files, great guy, super influential, especially in the early part of my career. And he said, when you're trying to make a tough decision and you don't know what to do, best answer is the one that makes you more interesting at dinner parties. So he's like, because as you get older, that's really all you're doing is just talking about the different stuff you got going on in your life.
It's good
I
advice.
think you know what you need to do. So I called Phil and was like, hey, I'm coming, and pretty much went from there. And it was an awesome experience. Got a master's program. Schooling is very different over there. Master's programs are only 1 year as opposed to 2 year, which admittedly was part of the incentive. I barely had one season left in the tank. I bad knees, bad back, the work, like just
Classic.
yeah, right. Classic guy coming out of football. The nice thing was I didn't have to weigh as much, so I was able to drop some weight. Got to played a little wide receiver over there, which is something no one would ever ask me to do here in the States.
We go.
And so that was fun. But anyways, yeah, it was a really awesome experience. Gave me some time to just kind of get my feet under me a little bit. Unfortunately, my playing career over there got cut short. I tore my ACL. And just because of the way the medical system is set up there, I decided it made a lot more sense to wait until I got back to the States to get my surgery done. I get back in September, get the surgery done. Then it's like a 3 to 6 month recovery period. And so I didn't really try. I was coming home. I was living with the folks, just trying to get my knees back under me, and then look at starting to apply for jobs because I just didn't think it made a lot of sense to try and do rehab on my own while trying to land my first job and all that stuff. And so, anyways, so I am starting to recover in spring of 2020, and I don't know if you remember what happened then, but March 2020, peak Austin applying for his first real job out of college.
Brutal.
Everything shuts down.
Everyone's like, go to the CEO and hand him the resume. Yeah, you couldn't do that.
No. I was reaching out. I was applying for things. I had really started to lean into the college athletics angle at that point. I was looking more at internal as an external role. So trying to get into like player development or academic support or things like that. And I'd submitted like 60 plus applications. It was like April, something along those lines. Like, we were into COVID, and I got one call back. I got one call, and it was from the University of South Florida. It was for an academic support role. It's funny when I tell this narrative, it feels like there's a real lack of intentionality because I had one option. That was it. If I wanted a job, it was to go work at the University of South Florida, or it was nothing. And so I did their academic coordinating program, and it was awesome. It was a great exposure. I got to work with student athletes. I loved getting to do that. It was something that I really enjoyed and thought that I would potentially kind of continue my career in. The issue is for me, I did struggle a little bit with the concept of not necessarily having the ball in my hand. There's a little lack of control. It's like I help these student athletes, I get them set up to be academically successful, but at the end of the day, they've got to go make the plays, and that was a little tough for me. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, I could love doing this. Like I got a lot out of it, but I could only really see myself doing it for like 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted to, but I wanted to stay in college athletics, and so I was starting to explore, and that's when I made the transition over to the revenue generation side. So I know that's a lot for the first question, but it's circumstance was really, it's hard to tell the story without the circumstance. I think that was, this is the tough part when you didn't have a plan. Is it's really hard to tell a clear narrative on that early part of my career. It gets a lot more streamlined here as we get up and running, but it was just one of those things where I was really someone who didn't know what they wanted to do. And then kind of you're sitting at your house without, the world has literally changed, and there was one real career lifeline, and it happened to be that job, and it was my step in the door, and a real great opportunity. And well,
even like kids, I mean, everyone coming out of college, it's just not a lot of people know what they're doing nowadays. So it's not like you're in the boat alone, or I mean, you going across to the UK is a different story. But it's like you get that streamline. I can't even imagine COVID times either. It's just I didn't know what I was doing when I came out, and like had great experience. And I graduated. We like walked down the hill to graduate. It's like a big thing, and people are like, "You got a job?" And I was like, "Nope, I don't. I don't. I'm in my cap and gown. I'm free balling it for a couple months." So it's not
Mhm.
like, yeah, like I said, you weren't the only boat, or you weren't the only one, but there's still plenty of people out there that are still finding their ways. And kind of transitioning, you go into account executive at Vanderbilt. How'd that come about? Field, like you're still with today. How was that transition?
Yeah. So it was good. It's actually funny. So it's a little bit of a full circle moment here, but uh, I found out after, like months after I got hired at Vanderbilt, I was initially in the rejection pile. Yeah, 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 yeah. So what happened is I applied for the role at Vanderbilt, and eventually I get reached out to talent acquisition. Um, but I guess what happened on the back end was, well, I reached out to talent acquisition. I get passed through to the regional manager, and Brett Wallace, who I think is now, I'm going to get his title wrong, but I think he's VP of sales for the Sphere out in Las Vegas. Great guy, super helpful, and a real awesome guy to just. I didn't get to interact with him a ton in my role at Learfield, but he was our regional manager, and just the example that he set was a really good example for me to learn from early on in my career. But we get on the phone to talk, and he's like, "Hey, tell me about yourself." And I get going, and I get like, I'm not even kidding, like 30 seconds into the answer, and he's gonna, "Hey, Austin, I'm gonna stop you right there." He's like, the reason that we're talking right now is because you are the first person that I have met that did the same thing I did. So you played at the University of Nottingham over in England. He's like, about 10 years ago, I did the same thing, but I
No
played for
way.
White Castle. Besides the guys I went over there with, I haven't met anyone else who's done it. And so
That's
I
awesome.
I was going to talk to you. And what he told me 6 months later is like, actually, your resume was thrown out. It wasn't just like I saw it and he's like, we went back through the candidate list. I saw that at the top of your resume. It was like talent acquisition. As long as he doesn't seem like he's a criminal, pass him through. And so I spent my entire phone interview with Brett just talking about playing American football over in England. And that was it. And then I interviewed with Connor Siskovic, who was being hired on as the director there for the Amplify sales team, and he's now the director of ticket sales at the Pittsburgh Penguins. But he and I hit it off immediately, and he's been again another super influential person in my career, and just molding me as a professional and as a leader and all of those things. Right, like he was an awesome example, but we just clicked, and
Yeah.
so
That's always good when like right away you're just able to click like that, and there's no awkward couple weeks of trying to fit the mold.
no, no. Well, it was good too because I was in his office every day asking him questions. So if we didn't click, that was gonna be that
Yeah.
was gonna be a problem.
Then you're screwed.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was gonna be tough. Uh, and so, anyways, uh, that's how I ended up again getting in. It was sort of a lucky accident. If I didn't have like England on my resume, I don't know that I would have gotten a call back, and who knows where my career would have gone from that point, right?
Yeah.
And so I got into it. The revenue generation side was definitely different. Learning how to make calls every day was definitely a different experience. I found that I actually gravitated, particularly at Vanderbilt, I gravitated more towards the premium element of it. That little bit longer sales cycle, more relationship building, that just really resonated with me. And I think is kind of in line with my academic support background at the time, and just in terms of getting to know the people that you're working with and really finding the best solution for them. That was great, but that was also the first athletics department I got to be in that wasn't like at this point, COVID protocols were starting to get pulled back to a degree. And so actually getting to see what it looks like when a department is fully staffed at South Florida, we were still very much we were working in phases. It was masks all day, every day. We
Yeah.
had to do mandatory COVID tests, and it it kind of takes away from the experience in terms of getting the
Mhm.
full on exposure. Like we outside of being in a large meeting room with a student athlete about like 10 feet apart from each other at one at a time, like that was the most interaction you got with the team side. So it was cool to see and be a part of a full athletic department and really start to get an understanding of how the business side worked. But that
Yeah.
was really the biggest part of the transition was just being fortunate enough to get people who connected with you early, believed in you, and I had a really high level of trust in for managing my career. So that definitely helped a lot.
Yeah, you seem like a fun and like fully energetic guy that needs to be around people. So that must have been a tough time for the COVID, or at least during COVID. So I'm just like myself. I just enjoy being around people, and I'm way funnier and way better when I'm when I'm with others and not just by myself. But kind of going into that, like your sales side and just your personality and stuff. How do you relate to a donor or a season ticket holder or fan? Or obviously you can, I can just tell you can build that connection through like laughter and like just being highly energetic and stuff. But how do you get that connection and relationship, or build it at least?
Yeah, I think the big thing, uh, and I forget who taught me that, but it's really about humanizing yourself, right? A lot of our work is done on the phone. It just is. And when you're on the phone, people can forget that there's another human being on the
Yeah.
other side of it. And so it's about sharing parts of yourself, right? So I'm from Florida originally. I have worked in Tennessee, Minnesota, and now Alabama. And there's been differences everywhere I've been. Like when I went to Vanderbilt, I was always a football first guy. I never really super in depth followed college basketball. We had Scottie Pippen Jr. on the team at the time. Like there were some high hopes around Vanderbilt basketball and potentially how good they could be. And so that was talking to fans and being like, "Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a football guy. I would love to hear more about your experience with Vanderbilt basketball, just giving them an opportunity to share their stories and be engaged with them." I had one donor. He's a retired judge. I can't remember his name, which is really tragic. But every time he'd get on the phone with me, he'd be like, "Oh, this is Austin, right? This is you're from DeLand, Florida. You played football for Stetson University or whatever." And then
Goes through your
he
whole
would tell me
bio.
all yeah, he would just tell me all kinds of wild stories about, um, like he used to tell me about driving on Daytona Beach, which is about 20, 30 miles from where I grew up. And he had a Corvette convertible that he would drive down there and roll on the beach back in the days when Daytona let you drive on the beach. And then um, he told this funny story about how he got married and they were going on their honeymoon, and he thought that he was all hyped up to take his Corvette down to Daytona with his new bride and just roll the streets and be the talk of the town and all this good stuff. And unfortunately, his wife's luggage wouldn't fit. So he had to swap in kind of an emergency swap. He had to switch his Corvette out with his buddy's Toyota Corolla and was rolling down to, yeah. Not the honeymoon he imagined, but he was honorable. I can't forget his I can't remember his first name, but last name was Wyatt, and he's just a great guy. Anyway, so you get them telling their stories, you share some of yours, like going to Minnesota. I don't know. I'm from Florida, man. The only thing I know about hockey is that the Tampa Bay Lightning usually win. That's all I
Yeah.
got for you,
Or
right?
Florida team in general. I think it's been like Florida
Yeah, the
teams past
Panthers.
3 years.
Yeah, we might be the state of hockey. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you could be. You could be.
Minnesota people could be.
Sunshine State's hockey now.
Yeah. Minnesota was, but that was the thing. Is like hey, straight up, I'm from Florida. Like I don't know much about hockey, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna learn." It was great getting to hear people tell those stories, welcome you into their community. It's funny. I built a lot of my relationships with my fan base and over the points of difference, really, and trying to bridge that gap, right? Like, hey, I'm here, but it sounds like you're having a great time over there. Help me understand the sport that you're passionate about. Help me understand what fires you up about being an alum of this university. Like, help me understand your world, and then that will help me make the best recommendations for you.
Yeah, yeah, bridge the gap.
Mhm.
Or shoot the gap like you're in football. So I mean that it all works the same. But yeah, that's really cool. And just to like see the difference. I haven't really heard that yet before from anyone. Like, you have that difference and you just try to connect it. Normally, it's just someone being like, yeah, you tell them what they want and how they want it. But it's cool that you were very personable and um, able to connect and like kind of bridge that gap, like we said. And I was stalking your LinkedIn, and recently you were Lairfield's Director of the Year. That's pretty exciting. Or go through that, kind of just talk about that, and congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. It was unexpected. I didn't even, will be honest, I didn't know I was up for it, and so we did our little award show, and my name popped up as a nominee. I was like, no way, and then I won, and I was like,
Sick.
all right, like I didn't see that coming. But and I say that to say because I think I work with a lot of great people, right? Like there's so many awesome directors in our network and folks that have been around for a long time, and certainly some of them have already won. But just it was a bit of a meaningful award because as I mentioned, Connor Siskovic was a really important part in the especially my early time at Vanderbilt, and he actually so in his first year we have rookie director of the year and we have director of the year, and in his first year he actually went from they didn't even put him up for rookie of the year because they all voted for him to win director of the year. He came in and made an immediate and meaningful impact at Vanderbilt. And so I remember thinking that was so cool. And just realizing like I'm genuinely getting to learn from one of the best in the business right now, how to handle things, how to approach things, the mindset you've got to take on, the way you need to support your team. You know, there's so many different styles and there's no one right way, but for whatever reason, Connor's style really resonated with me. It felt very authentic to a lot of the things that I already believed, but showed me some things that I could add to my own personal beliefs of what leadership looked like and the right way to conduct yourself in this industry. So it's funny. I talk to my team now, and they know this. They've met Connor. Had him jump on a call with them a little bit a few months ago, just for like a little educational session. And there's times I'm saying things, and you know that weird moment when you say something, and it's almost like you hear your parents' voice coming through. It's like I'll say something,
Yes.
and I'm like, God,
Way
Connor
too
needs to
many
say
times.
this. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think he really set the example for me. There's been so many people who have influenced me in my career and helped me grow, right? Like obviously our leadership team right now, like Alicia Cordy is our executive director. Tyler Richwine has been with Amplify for years and is our head of business development. And Sarah Davis oversees the whole company, and each one of them has been influential in their time. But also, I mentioned Brett Wallace has been a example and a mentor during periods of my career. Marcus Madlock was with the company for a long time as well. Same deal. And just and then a few of my fellow directors, in particular Cole Erlinson at Duke, amazing professional, and just I could be a little more. I may not come off this way necessarily, but I could be a little more technical in my perspective. And he is. Don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone's could outclass him in terms of technical proficiency, but that guy leads with his heart, man, and he just does a great job of humanizing everything that we do and relating to the people that he works with. And so it's a really good example for me to learn from as well. And he actually helped me on board here at Alabama and was a big part of getting us off on the right foot. So just really humbling award to win when there's so many great people around me that have helped me do this. And of course, my team here at Alabama, as well as all the hard work that they've put in. We've got Christian Wilkes and Stevie Moore have been with us from the start and are still part of the team, but really great sellers for us. Connor Smith was our data analyst here. He actually recently left to take a job with the San Francisco 49ers. We're very proud of him for that. And that was really cool to help work with him and coach him through some of that experience. And we recently expanded our team, so we just Landon Howe came to us from Troy, where he won our Champions Club. He finished first place. It's our highest award as a seller in the company, so we're really excited to get him added on to the team as well. And then Mitch Slyman, recent grad from Xavier. Up in Ohio, just came down and joined our team as well. And is already making an impact, and so it's one of those awards. Like, yes, it has a individual name to it, but it just feels like I'm benefiting from the culmination of a lot of other people's work. And
Yeah.
Alabama, of course, is an amazing partner and makes life so easy on us. So I'm grateful for the award. I'm glad we get to be successful. Humbling thing. So I appreciate the reference to it.
Yeah, it's a big time honor, and it's definitely something to cherish. And I mean, Director of the Year sounds great. So I'd have a plaque. I don't know if they give you a plaque or anything.
I was told they're shipping some hardware. I don't know what it'll be, but
Let's go.
I was asked for our mailing address, so
Yeah. Hang that on the mantle when you get home.
yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of bouncing off others and like kind of humanizing stuff and skills that you've learned from others. But what do you think people around you or above or below, what skills have they acquired from you?
Oh, phew. Man, that's a great question. Man, asking for a pretty high degree of self-awareness here. I think one of the things, all right, I'm gonna go with two things, just because you're putting me on the spot. So I
Yeah.
think there's two things. One, I think I do a pretty good job with temperament in terms of just not getting too high on the highs, not too low on the lows. I know that's a common cliche for pretty much every sports program in the entire country, but our head coach, Roger Hughes, used to preach that to us all the time. I think, that's always kind of helped contextualize things and put things in perspective in terms of how to approach things and understanding like, hey, we're all still going to be here on the other side of whatever happens here.
Unless you
So
get
I think
canned.
what's that?
Said unless you get canned, but that was just a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah, yeah. Well, do a good job. Do a good job. But if the effort's there, if the passion's there, right? Like at the end of the day, most things aren't pass fail, right? It's or maybe they are. I guess yeah. Most things aren't pass fail, where it's like if you don't hit a certain threshold, the entire world ends, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get credit for some of it. Do the best job that you can. Part of college athletics is understanding that not everything's going to get done. It just isn't. I work at Alabama and we have plenty of resources here. Like, do not get me wrong. We are more privileged here than almost any other university in the entire country, right? Want to make that clear. But college athletics in general is still one of those things where you're trying to ask people to do a lot of things, right? And it's one of the biggest things that I've kind of learned from other people is it's not about getting every single thing done. It's about getting the things that need to get done, the things that you can do on top of that, done in some capacity, right? So that there's at least a level of completion there and we can keep things moving. And then if you can get to them, great. But if not, identifying the things that if they fall through, we're all going to be fine, right? We're all going to be fine. Certain things are luxuries and you just got to be able to identify those things, right? And so identifying what those are can be stressful, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
because sometimes you're sitting here thinking like that might actually be something that can't like
Mhm.
get missed. And so you stress over those decisions and just trying to make the right ones. Having a certain level of calm and being encouraging to your team through that is really important and not getting phased by the highs or the lows. The other thing I think, and it's something I picked up from others, but I feel like I've done a good job of implementing it here, is transparency. I am big on transparency.
Mhm.
I oversee a team of account executives. It's an entry level sales position. There are not many, if any, career account executives in the college athletic space. There just aren't, right? It is a stepping stone to the next part of your career, right? Whatever that is. If it's continuing to grow in ticket sales, great. If it's moving on to a different type of sales, great. If it's moving into a completely different area of athletics or even outside the industry, great. We just need to, like, my responsibility is making sure that you leave here better than when you showed up, right? That your resume is competitive and that you feel good and intentional about the steps that you're taking in your career. And if I'm going to help you make that next step, we have to be able to be transparent with one another. So if I'm going to ask for transparency from you about, hey, I'm starting to look at jobs, great. I'm going to help coach you through it. I'm a big believer in Mike Tomlin's. We want volunteers, not prisoners, right? So if you're ready to look and you feel, I will be honest about where I think you're at, and if what you're looking at makes sense for your career, but I'm not going to get in the way. And ideally, like I'm here to help, right? Like Connor came to me with his opportunity in San Francisco, and we were able to have a really healthy conversation around that. I think I may have helped talk him out the door, but the reality situation is that his ultimate career goal is to be a general manager. That's the job he needs to take, right? Like this is a great role here, and we're actually in the process of hiring for our new data analyst. We're pretty close to the end. I'm excited about the candidates that we've got. But like if you want to be an NFL GM, I think working in the NFL is probably a little
Yeah.
closer to what you're trying to do. And getting to do it for a franchise like the 49ers is an awesome opportunity. We had some good, healthy conversations about that. And, I think he was able to get to a more honest place with himself about what his ultimate goals were and what he wanted to do. And I don't want to speak for him, but I think he well, I know he shared this that he felt um, he appreciated the ability to have those types of conversation and
Yeah.
mentioned that that's something that he had talked to some friends and that he's not everyone gets, right? And so I think that's something like if not everyone's getting it, then I suppose that's something that's unique for me. But I'm honest with my team about my career goals and my aspirations, and I'm still looking to grow in my career. I'm happy where I'm at, and things are good, and I'm still learning a lot every single day here. But eventually, like there's going to come a time for that next step, and whatever it is, wherever it is, right? Like I will be open and honest with my team about that too. So
Yeah, it's
I
like
think those are kind of my two things.
yeah, I mean, going back to the transparency, it's like you want to go some, or you have a goal in mind, and if you're not there, you're gonna do what you can to get there. So it's like it's great to have that transparency, and some people might hate it, but most people should enjoy and be happy that someone's like, oh, this is an opportunity I need to take that will get me to that next step. So where I want to be is one step closer. Yeah, I don't really like the people. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like the people that grudge people for that, and I get like staying somewhere and keeping and obviously building up and at one place, but at the same time if you want to do or have an aspiration somewhere else, you have to go chase it.
Well, and that was something I got taught, right? Is that not every location is going to be able to grow with you, right? Eventually, like in a lot of cases, you're going to outgrow the location that you're at, the role that you're in college athletics. A lot of times that can mean the location that you're at. It's a little bold to say that I would outgrow Alabama, right? But like my vertical, my area of expertise, like eventually getting to a point where there's not as much growth opportunity for me here. Like that's real, right? And I've already had colleagues here, even just outside of the Learfield team, working in the athletic department who got to a certain point. They're great at their jobs. They loved it here, but they're ready to grow, right? And the opportunity wasn't there, and they're better positioning themselves by making that move than staying here and just waiting their turn, right? And there's no right or wrong. Like if you're at the university, we talk about this all the time, right? Like I have a counterpart at another university. He had been there for 7 years, so he had been with the company for longer than I had, and I ended up being a director before him. But he was at the university he wanted to be at. Like he right, he was already there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it was about waiting his turn, and for him, that was worth it. There's no right or wrong answer. If it's worth it to you, then that's the right answer.
Yeah, nothing else matters.
Right, exactly. If you get into the comparing game, it just doesn't work. Like for me, I was willing, as a Floridian, I was willing to go to Minnesota. And by the way, loved it. St. Thomas is an incredible story in college athletics. The stuff they're doing up there is awesome. I see them post about it on LinkedIn all the time, and it gets me excited and a little bit nostalgic about it just because it was such a great experience for me. And also, the Twin Cities are absolutely one of America's best kept
Phenomenal, yeah.
secrets. It is a
Yeah.
great location. Love Minneapolis, love St. Paul, which is crazy to say. I lived through winter, second snowiest winter on record. Thanks, nature. It
No
was,
big deal.
yeah, but it was still incredible to see that they were like, yeah, life goes on in the winter and it's an awesome time and all those things, right? But that was worth it for me. For this guy, it was worth it to stay, and that's totally fine. Both answers are fine. You just have to be comfortable with the choice that you're choosing.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, did St. Thomas have like underground tunnels to go to class and to um other like events and stuff? Because I go up to Bemidji, Minnesota every summer to like fish and just hang out, and my family has some land and stuff up there, but
No way.
Bemidji State is the university there, and they have like tunnels underground to go to classes from the dorms and stuff. And so I was just curious if St. Thomas did too.
That's a great question. There definitely weren't tunnels from the parking garage that I parked in to the athletic facility, but I do think for certain buildings, it wasn't campus wide, but I do think for certain buildings, like if you were able to park in there was the open parking deck, and then there was the below ground parking deck. I wasn't there long enough to get into actually the week I left, I think we got approval for us to get into the below ground parking deck.
Oh, brutal.
Anyways, but that below ground parking deck definitely connected to the athletic facility. So you win some, you lose some, but it was still a
Yeah.
great experience. definitely, I don't know. It's a good way of finding out how badly you want to be successful in this industry if
Yeah.
you go to a place that's totally unfamiliar to you and find a way to not just like get through it, but to enjoy it. I worked with a bunch of wonderful people up there and still talk to some of them, and yeah, had a great time. Yeah, yeah, different ways to do it.
Yeah, no, that weather's no joke up there. Luckily, I just go in the summers, so I'm avoiding the winter.
It's a
So
good way to
we're
do
good
it. The
good
summers are
on that front.
fantastic.
Although I do want to ice fish. I've never done it, and I wanted to do it. Did you get a chance or
No, no, tough sell. Go and sit. All right, I'm sorry, but it was like there. I'm like, so we just go sit out on an open frozen lake and fish, and it's like,
drink?
yeah, but you if you do it right, you get in a hut. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay. And then they're like, yeah, you bring out like a TV or whatever, and you like watch sports and you bring like a cooler and you just enjoy yourself. And they're like, okay. And the fishing, it's like, well, you run a line and then it drops down in. And it's like, so the only difference between watching this sporting event at home is that we are outside in a hut freezing our butts off. And like there just happens to be a fishing line next to us. I'm good, man. Like that's just not for me. I as a Floridian, I just that was too far. That was too much for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's cool. They have like highways on the lake, so you're like driving just on like thin or ice, and you're just on the lake. And only heard about it, never done it, like I said, but really
Yeah.
interesting. I get the point of just sitting there, but at least they're probably drinking, so I mean that helps a little bit.
I'm told that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, told there's a lot of fireball in the in the tent or whatever they call it. Uh, I'll just round it out here. I just want to say thank you so much. I have like one or two more questions for you, but Austin, I appreciate this time today, and obviously this has been a joy. Some of these have been like more just informational back and forth, but obviously a lot of laughs and highly energetic. So this has been great. But great question. I love this one with you being at a big school, and I recently had so the CEO of LSU's like foundation or athletic foundation, they have like a separate like it's their school and then it's like where they raise money. But I talked to Matt Borman, he's like the president and CEO of that, and I asked him his favorite moment that he's had at LSU game wise, and he said versus Alabama a couple years ago when LSU went for two, and so I had to bring it up. Having just interviewed him, I was like, I got to bring it up. But what was your favorite moment so far at Alabama, game wise, or obviously least favorite moment was probably that one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say it was a lot of mixed feelings. Another tragic SEC game, losing to Vanderbilt last year. It was funny. So my first quick story here. My first football game at Vanderbilt was Vanderbilt versus Eastern. What is it? ETSU, Eastern Tennessee State, which I was familiar with because one of my college teammates for his fifth year transferred to ETSU. They played. They were good FCS program. And anyways, it's like 20. God, that would have been fall of 21, I think it was. And it was the first year Coach Clark Lee there, and they go on to lose that game in a pretty tough fashion. I think it was like 20-3 was the final score of that game. And it was me, Connor, my director that I mentioned before, and Donovan Dewing, who's now one of the premium sailors at Vanderbilt these days. And anyways, so fast forward to this past fall. Of course, Vanderbilt upsets Alabama, and I'm watching with a bunch of Alabama fans, and I have some mixed feelings because Vanderbilt will have a special place in my heart forever, just because it's really where I started my revenue generating career. It's where I met Connor and Brett, and really kind of set me out on this path, and definitely some formative years there for sure. But anyways, Donovan goes on to post on LinkedIn and references that game. I think it even rained for that game, and we're just sitting there in the south end zone watching, going like, how are we going to sell another Vanderbilt football ticket this season? And he reflected back on that moment and how far the program came. And I was sitting there, and I think I commented back on that post something like, it's 3 years later and I'm still on the losing side of this game. But it just was, it's tough. I guess I say that to say is common misconception about working at really any like major power four school at this point is life's not perfect, right? Like everything can't go your way. And it's It's good. I will say Georgia last year winning at home, the Ryan Williams catch, like
Yeah,
that was
that's top.
insane. He looks like, and I was down towards the end zone that he scored in, so that was incredible. And that young man makes everyone else on the field look like they're playing on skates. It is incredible the stuff that he does. So that was electric. I mean, just absolutely one of the craziest experiences. Just to be in the venue for that. I will also the Saban dedication game was also very cool. The unveiling of all of that, him walking into the stadium at halftime with Thunderstruck playing, and them unveiling his Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, unbelievable, so
Yeah,
cool, and
Joe.
credit to our team here to put that on. It was just so well done, and that was a really cool thing. So that's probably that. Again, I gave you two, but that's it.
No, yeah, I
That
would love as many as possible.
Yeah. I think those are two, and they all happened last season. Those are really big. There's definitely been some awesome moments that deserve mention, but those are the two um,
And obviously,
highlights.
great time for basketball as well. I mean, you guys, Marcus Spears was just insane, and I had you guys going all the way last year. So, as
Man,
an avid KU fan that knew we weren't going to go far, I was like, I need to pick someone else. So, yeah, I had you guys, but Florida was just a dog last year.
so good. They have our number for some reason. We just don't seem to match up well against them because they even the year of our Final Four run, they gave us some trouble in the regular season and I think in the SEC tournament. So we're outside of Florida. We're probably a top five program, but then we play them and they seem to have our number. But hopefully not the case this year. That would be
Mm.
great, but we'll see how it goes.
Sweet, yeah. And I mean, I'm pumped up for football season right around the corner. 2 weeks. I'm sure you're fired up as well. Who you guys play week 1?
We're at Florida State, and then we come home and play University of Louisiana Monroe.
I'll do a little shit talk. Who's your week 8 cupcake in November?
Oh, you're putting me in a tough spot here. So
I just hate.
I know who we're playing in November, but
well, you don't have to. I just
our
don't like.
non-conference opponent in November is Eastern Illinois. Is my answer to that question.
I personally, Big 12 guy. I mean, I just personally don't like seeing the week 8 or 9, whoever. But probably cut that, for probably won't put that on.
Yeah.
But last thing, I just kind of like to end it every time I do these is advice you'd have for someone going into your role. I guess pertains to me because I'll be kind of following in your footsteps with ticketing and fundraising and stuff. But advice for someone going into the role as a 22-year-old just looking to break in and kind of get through that entry level position.
Yeah. So I think if I specific to ticketing, if you're getting into ticketing, I think the big thing there is one, know your goal when you're going in. Ticketing is so it's funny. Ticketing's probably this has just been my experience. People may disagree. Ticketing tends to be sort of lowest on the totem pole in terms of the hierarchy of sales, despite it being kind of essential for fueling all other aspects of sales in college athletics, right? Like sponsorship deals and things like that just aren't worth as much if you don't have eyeballs coming into the facilities and engaging with the program in a physical capacity. That said, and people have a lot of respect for it because it is a grind culture, right? You have to come in and I know from a Learfield standpoint, we ask our sellers to make anywhere from 60 to 80 phone calls a day, 300 to 400 calls a week, right? Like that's pretty standard across the board. That's a lot. Even for the most extroverted person, that's a lot to ask. And our director of training and development, Matt Sanchez, he calls it slaying the dragon. Basically finding that willpower to pick up the phone for the first time and then continue to do it because there is this sort of avoidance behavior that naturally starts to creep in, especially as you get more and more fatigued. And so just understanding what you're working towards, both in terms of, your hard sale number and all that good stuff, but also what you're trying to do with your career, right? And it's not the answer you have to be locked into forever, but I find it's always helpful to have something bigger than the situation you're facing in the moment to motivate you to persevere through it. Right. And so I know that sounds a little dramatic, but people burn out on sales. You don't want to do that because you talked about getting canned earlier in the conversation and that's where it kicks in. And it's not because these aren't hardworking individuals or good professionals, but it's because either they lost their why or they just let their tank get empty, and now you're in a tough situation because it's always hard to recoup it. So having that eye, that sort of guiding light, knowing what you're getting into is great. If you are just trying to break in general, I honestly think what you're doing, Ryan, is probably the best way to go. You don't necessarily have to start a podcast, but
Yeah.
just reaching out to different people in the industry and having conversations with them. One, it's beneficial for you to learn about different areas of the industry and kind of figure out where it makes the most sense for you to try and fit into. It also is beneficial for you because you're networking and making connections. Because you mentioned you met Eric Luna, and now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to go work at KU, right? Like, which kind of brings me to my third point of this is you're making connections without asking for a job, right? Like when someone posts a job and you ask to connect, it's kind of the worst time
Yeah.
to connect with them, right? If
Seems a
you
little,
reach
yeah,
out with
fishy.
what's that? Well, it's just like, okay, and I never thought about this until I was in a hiring manager role, but it just feels like you're asking for something of me, right? Like you're trying to, because that I only have so many openings, right? So you're trying to access a finite resource. But when you reach out when I don't have a job posting and you are just curious about the profession, that in my opinion speaks volumes about who you are and your intentionality in the industry, and just is framed so differently. So like there's a um like for example, I feel bad because I'm blanking on her name right now, but a young lady who's going to school in the I think greater Denver area reached out to me to have a conversation. I spoke to her on the phone. Within phone interviews are great because like in my profession you can tell pretty quickly who's got it and who doesn't based on their demeanor on the phone. Within 15 seconds I was like, oh, this young lady is great.
Yeah.
There's something different here, right? And I think she's doing some internships in the ticketing space and all those things. She graduates in December. If I have a job opening in December, you best believe she's getting a call, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of the situation because she connected with me without looking for anything other than knowledge, which I can give infinitely, right? And then she impressed me. She impressed me. She had great, thoughtful questions. She gave great answers to my questions, and she is interested in the ticket sales industry. All green flags for hiring in my profession, right? I've talked to a few others. She's just the one that kind of jumps to mind right now. But there's a few other people who either have actually interviewed with me that I think very highly of, but there's definitely a number of people who have reached out to me, made a positive impression. Some of them I thought could be great fits in ticket sales, some of them not. But, you start to keep track of those folks and think, okay, if I have a job opening and it times out well with their timeline, I'm going to reach out, right? So start doing that. Everything's an interview. You start doing it now. Get in contact with people. Start impressing folks. Be prepared. Have good, thoughtful questions. And that's how it starts because this really is a networking game. It really is. At the end of the day, college athletics it's about doing a great job, working hard, having fun. It's also about working with people that you enjoy working with. I'm very fortunate to get to do that here at Alabama, and I hope as I continue through my career that continues to be the case. And eventually, one day, if I get to the point where I get to pick my team, right, I can't wait to work with a bunch of people, qualified, hardworking people that I know are going to be great culture fits, right? So
Mhm.
you start that by making the connection now.
Yeah, that's great advice. And yeah, going through the levels, you get intern or entry level and then kind of overseeing others and then you get to make that team. And that's kind of what the journey is all about, just connecting with others, sharing day-to-day common goals and then finding and then yeah, people reaching out like you said, like that girl and many others. Austin, thank you so much. This was awesome. I enjoyed every second. This was a blast. Anything else you'd like to say that I forgot or didn't talk about?
Well, man, I probably talked enough, but I appreciate you hanging on with me for this long.
Yeah.
No, I think it's one of those things that I would just like to double down on that bit of advice. If you are curious about this industry, trying to find your way in it, like I struggled. I was a former student athlete. I had an internship. It wasn't like super substantial, but I didn't realize like getting into sports is super difficult. Once you're in, it's a different story, but we've all been there. And if there's anything that I can do, or there's some to help, or if there's someone out there that you really want to try and connect with, do it. Give it a shot. Just see what happens. The worst case that happens is they say no or they don't answer, and it's all right. At the end of the day, now you know, and you can move on and keep trying to connect with other folks. I would say basically tell your listeners, follow Ryan's example here. Again, you don't have to necessarily make a podcast. I think a podcast is a great idea, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just reach out, have these types of conversations, but just have the courage to do it. That's how you get started in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, starting this, I was nervous. I was like, especially with me not having like a job or anything and seeing all my friends get jobs and they're all in the business world for the most part. So it's felt like you're behind a little bit in a sense. And like sport management major, that's already looked at a little, at least in my sense, a little down on. But just yeah, doing something like this, not just start a podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
reaching out, texted, called a millions of people and no answers or no responses. It's always scary to get that first one going, but once you get through a few, you're just like, basically, fuck it. You're just like, I'm going. I'm gonna try to do as many people, or I'm gonna get these calls and texts in. Obviously, a little scary to start, but once you get going and once it's rolling, it's not that bad.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and it's good training for your new sales role. Like getting told
Yeah,
no is a big part.
for
It's
sure.
really a big part of any profession, honestly, but particularly sales. And you mentioned feeling like you got a late start. Like I played a fifth season at Stetson and then went to England. I got back. I was in my mid 20s. There were people who were years into their career at this point
Yeah,
and feeling like buying houses and starting families and all that stuff and just feeling like I was so behind. And don't get me wrong, like that feeling sticks with you for a little bit, but I mean, I'm happy with where I'm at. I still have a lot of ambition and drive to continue to grow in this industry, but I'm less so concerned about trying to catch up with everyone and focusing more in just my own path and my own narrative and just trying to find my way. And so I think that like telling you it gets like you grow out of it feels a little weird, but I think your career will catch up with you. Like as long as you trust that it will catch up with you, it will. And then at that point, it's really about getting into the driver's seat and figuring out what's next for yourself. But don't sweat the pace of play, right? Like just
yeah.
play your game and you'll get there.
For sure, the outcome will be there. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. I start in 2 weeks, so I'll probably reach out to you for any questions or anything I have before I
Yeah.
start, just because you're in the position I'm kind of gonna be in, and obviously we'll have I don't know first date. I don't really get nervous. It's more of just like I'm a question guy. I ask a ton of
Hmm.
questions, so I'll for sure reach out within the next couple weeks, and I appreciate all the advice and guidance you shared today.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. Good luck.
yeah, thank you so much. We'll see ya.
All right.